exactly what you were doing today on the call.
This was an assassination attempt. You owe the people answers. You owe President Trump answers.
We are in extraordinary times. A confrontation you saw there between GOP senators and the head of the Secret Service on the floor of the Republican convention. The senators absolutely furious after they were briefed that the shooter had been identified as suspicious a full 19 minutes before he tried to assassinate Donald Trump. The lawmakers demanded to know why the Secret Service still allowed the former president to take the stage at his Pennsylvania rally on Saturday. Take a listen.
We have questions that we wanted to ask. We felt we didn't get any of the responses that were necessary from you. Very disappointed in your leadership. I have called for your resignation, and I would rather you resign tonight or start answering our questions right now.
Can you give us an explanation? Why would anyone allow the president to go on stage when you know that you've got a potential threat and you've got snipers that are trained on it? Why? I don't think that this is a format at this discussion. Oh, yes,
you hung up on it.
Well, and we're learning new details about what the gunman was doing in the days and hours leading up to his attempt to assassinate Donald Trump. CNN's Danny Freeman is in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, near the shooter's home. What can you tell us about this investigation and what is happening at this hour?
Well, Sarah, frankly, as you alluded to, we have learned quite a bit more information in the past 24 hours, thanks to that briefing provided to lawmakers, thanks to a new statement by Butler Township, and of course, thanks to new video obtained by CNN. So I want to talk about some of that video first. Let's take a look at this video obtained by CNN affiliate WTAE in Pittsburgh. It shows, if you can see on your screens right now, a person wearing clothing resembling Thomas Matthew Crooks in front of that building complex where he would ultimately perch on top of one of the buildings and fire at former President Trump. And this video was taken about an hour before the shooting, so clearly one crucial part of this investigation moving forward. Plus, we also have new dramatic video that was obtained by CNN showing law enforcement officials actually ramming fencing with one of their vehicles in order to gain access to the outer perimeter where the shooter was taking shots at the former president. This video coming just after that shooting took place. Now, Sarah, this all comes as we're getting more information about the larger investigation as well. Law enforcement sources telling CNN that there were pictures on the shooter's phone of both President Biden and President Trump, but law enforcement sources also noted that there were other political figures on his phone as well, including pictures of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Speaker Mike Johnson, but no threatening language accompanying any of those photos. The other thing that was a piece of new information is that Crooks apparently has searched for information on major depression disorder, but still law enforcement officials say that there's no evidence that he himself had any diagnosis. And the last thing, Sarah, that I'll note is from the House briefing, legislative sources were telling us that the shooter actually visited that rally site twice before the shooting, and cell phone data shows that he was at that rally site at least 70 minutes prior to the shooting. Sarah?
Those details disturbing to anyone who saw what happened, the death of one of the rally goers, injuries, and he almost shot and killed Donald Trump.
The House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed the Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle to appear before that panel on Monday as they investigate the security breakdown that apparently made the shooting possible over the past weekend. Republican Congressman Mark Alford of Missouri joins me now. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us. I guess, first of all, we know that law enforcement officials briefed members of Congress yesterday about some of the details of that assassination attempt over the weekend. What did you hear from that briefing regarding the shooting that stood out to you?
Well, Jim, thanks for having me on. Yes, I was on that briefing call. It was an off-the-record call, so there's not a lot that I can share with you. I will tell you in generalities, though, Director Cheadle and Director Wray did acknowledge that this was a failure in security, and I believe that Mike Johnson, our speaker, was the one to say that this was the biggest security failure for the Secret Service since Ronald Reagan was shot. They gave us a timeline, a very detailed timeline of what went on, but no real answers. And they said, at this point, we're really not ruling anything out, that we have to continue the investigation and let the facts lead us where they may.
And investigators indicated in this briefing, according to sources who spoke with CNN, that the shooter was searching for information on his devices on both President Biden and former President Trump, including details about the upcoming Democratic convention. Does that mean that some of these accusations that Democratic rhetoric had somehow caused the shooting were off base?
Well, look, I think it is too early to try to determine why this young man was motivated in such an evil way and who also might be behind this. Again, we don't know if there were any accomplices. We don't know if there were any state actors or not behind this. I do know one thing, though, Jim. There are a lot of conspiracy theories floating around. There's a lot of blame being put on different agencies and different people. We've got to find out the facts, and we've got to get that information out as soon as possible so that trust can be rebuilt for the Secret Service and the FBI.
And do you think the Secret Service director should step down?
I do. Look, she acknowledged that this is a failure. She, as the head of the Secret Service, she is basically responsible for this failure, the greatest security failure for the Secret Service since Ronald Reagan was shot. We've got to make sure that our former presidents, our current president, and future presidents are protected.
All right, Congressman Mark Alford, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.